Hello and welcome to another interview for my blog and podcast, The Rich Comic Life. My name is Richard Gill and my blog describes my experiences of watching well over 1,000 comedians for nearly 50 years. I'm delighted to welcome my guest today. It's the wonderful Paul Merryck. Yay!
Hi, Rick.
Hello, mate.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Very well.
Good, good. It's so good to see you. I'm so pleased you can do this.
Delighted, mate. Absolutely delighted. It's lovely to meet you a few weeks ago. I'm pleased to be on.
My pleasure. And we're going to talk about your comedy career. It should hopefully last between 45 minutes and an hour. And I'd like to start off by asking you, how did you become a comedian in the first place, please?
Well, yeah, it's an odd story, really. I suppose. I was working a lot in London and staying in hotels a lot, and I used to meet a lot of my friends for a drink after work and things, and we were doing the same thing all the time, going to the same pubs, watching football, etc. One of my mates said, "Why don't we go and watch some open mic comedy tonight?" And I thought, "Oh, well, why not? I don't know." And so we turned up at this pub in King's Cross. I can't even remember what pub it was, and it was an open mic. Was actually in the bar, and it seemed to be a lot of medical type students and people doing it, and it was awful. It was it was really poor. And we were quite pissed, to be fair, but it was. I mean, we weren't being rude, but we would talk to each other thinking, "Oh man, we could do better than this, surely." And I went away with sort of like thinking, well, I should give it a go, because it looks like it's relatively easy to actually be able to get up somewhere and try it. And so from that, I did start trying to write some things down, and it took me months. And I finally got up the courage. I didn't know where to go, so I went to the comedy store, to the King Gong. So that was about 10 years ago. The first gig I ever did was there. And had a few mates down and stuff, and it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. There was about 30 comics on or something like that.
So that was your first ever gig, King Kong. Wow,
yeah,
you brave man.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know anything else. I didn't know where to go. You see, Rich.
Yeah.
It was something I had no frame of reference there in terms of what you did, because I didn't know anybody who did comedy, and I wasn't really savvy as to where you go. I knew there's some professional clubs, but in terms of actually being able to try things out, that was the famous one.
Yeah.
So I rang them up or whatever and found out about it and put my name down. And when I did that, so yeah, it was utterly terrifying. But I got through about 3.5 minutes before I got the third red card or whatever it was and got gonged off. So
wow.
I've done already a lot better than a lot of people that have been on, and also got some laughs. So that's the first thing. Is the first laugh you get, it's like, wow, this is amazing. I've got 200 people, because it was packed, laughing at me here, or however many people there are in there. And it's funny actually. I was talking to I've never met him before, Mick Ferry.
Yeah. Know him well. Yeah.
The first time I met him, he was the MC. And I said, we have met before, but very, very briefly. And I told some really terrible joke about football, and that's what got me the red cards. And I also learned from that time, it's about understanding that a lot of people aren't going to like a lot of things, and how you sort of put that together in terms of the way that you present your set. It's a very early lesson, but yeah, got the bug. And so then I spoke to some people there who were also on the bill, and they said, "Oh, try this pub, try that pub,"
Yeah.
So before long, I was doing TNT and Comedy Virgins and We Are Funny and all sorts of things like that. So I was on the open mic circuit, and because I was in London like 2 or 3 nights a week staying in a hotel, and it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday usually. It was a perfect time for doing open mic spots, because that's when they are. So I didn't gig on Thursdays, Fridays, and weekend for years really, because I still had young kids and stuff, and I was at home then. But yeah, so I sort of cut my teeth doing that, and just loved it really from the moment I started doing it. It was just
that's fantastic. I have had a go once at doing it. It was similar, a gong show, but it was in Edinburgh, and I used to know one of the promoters there years ago, and he said we've got an old folks gong show on in the Haymarket on a Monday afternoon in the rain. Couldn't be worse. And I wrote this script, about me crashing cars in Carlisle because I'd just passed my driving test.
Right.
And he loved it. And I walked out, and there was 3 people in the crowd, and I said, "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. People think I look like Eddie the Eagle Edwards, the ski jumper, but I can't see the resemblance myself." And of course, when I was at college, I was his daughter, still am. And one old bloke in the back just went, "Fuck off!" and come up. And the guy said, "Have another go, have another go." And I'm like, "Oh, I think my call is the audience supporting you all. So well done for the God show."
It's brilliant because I tried it again about 9 months later, a year later, or whatever. And the way they did do it then, in terms of the King Kong, you had 14 acts on, then a break, then another 14 acts, and I was drawn 14th. So by the time I came,
headliner,
I was getting food before I got on the stage. Everybody wanted a beer or go to the loo, I did about 2.5 minutes.
I think it's brutal. That.
It is. It's fair pitch.
Yeah. But I can't see the appeal of it. But I suppose I say to all the comedians, I presume it's all experience. You said you've done your 5 minutes in pubs and whatnot. That must have been a great training ground for you.
Well, it was in a sense, but then again, of course, from there, every gig you play for like 5 years, really, whatever, is in front of just other comedians and a few people who've strayed in, or comedians' friends. And your first one is in front of actual proper paid audience. Wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks later, you're in front of absolutely nobody. But it was great. And I think that's things. I mean, if it had gone really badly, I'd have probably never done it again.
Right.
I'd have probably said, "No, it's not for me. It's too scary." But after you think once you've done that, you think you've conquered those nerves, and that's a huge part of it, isn't it? When you start.
Oh yeah.
Being terrified of doing it, and getting those first few laughs is like, wow, actually, so those jokes are okay. Because you don't know until you've done it.
Yeah.
You write things, and they're not. I didn't try anything in the pub or run anything past anybody. I didn't do any of those. Thought I'm not going to expose this to anybody until I've done it in public. So, and I didn't also let people at work and people know. I was doing it for years. My real name is slightly different to my stage name.
Right.
To avoid people finding me on social media when I started. I was so embarrassed by being rubbish.
You're not rubbish. You're not rubbish. Never ever think.
I was then, Richard.
No. So there you are doing your 5 minutes in pubs. Did you go? Did you have to bring a friend with you to the gigs? Because I am the best friend to have to go along and to really be enthused for them. I've been many a time, seen many a comedian develop.
I bet. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's funny because I get both sides of the argument with the bringer argument and the non-bringer.
Yeah.
But the bringer argument is the great thing is you've got an audience, and the people who are running the show have got some way of keeping the pub or wherever it might be happy that people are coming in and buying a few pints and stuff.
Yeah.
So I totally get why it happens, but then again, I totally get the other argument is that you shouldn't really have to force people to come in and watch you, and a lot of them are almost captives.
But
seen their friends, God knows how many times. Like some of my mates, like that, I could do the set for me. They really could.
But from an audience point of view, we're not here to hear heckles. We're here to hear the acts, and that's why we go. So when you're on stage, what do you specifically like to talk about? Do you have any specific themes or anything like that?
Yeah, well, it's a character, so it's although some people aren't convinced by that. You've met me, so it's pretty much you, isn't it? So it's kind of like an exaggeration of sort of myself in some ways, but lots of amalgamation of blokes I've met along the way, sort of totally feckless, unrepentant, unreconstructed Essex men who just amaze me with their complete lack of concern and cavalier attitude towards life, and just bowling through stuff. So it's this fairly sort of disreputable, shabby individual, and putting him in lots of different situations whereby he just talks about his life really. And puts
If it was a northern version, it would be me from Carlisle.
It could easily be. And And I'm sure there must be a few. Well, there aren't there? I mean, it's nothing original. I mean, that's the whole thing. I'm not trying to, I'm not pulling out any trees here in terms of what I'm doing, but it's something that I can actually write for,
right?
Because I know a lot about it, and that's they always say about finding your voice and that sort of thing. And I found, when I looked at it from all sorts of angles, actually doing it as me, just an observational type comedian. But there's two things really. One, I wouldn't really want to share that much of my personal life on stage.
Of course.
Two, I just don't think it's that funny. And I think the problem is with a lot of observational comedy is it's so many people think of the same things and the same routines, etc. They're very, very good, a lot of them, but it's very difficult to be original in that kind of way. Whereas if you're putting yourself in ludicrous, far-fetched situations, and that level of exaggeration gives you far more scope to just fuck around with it, and see what you can do, and just be daft. And that's what I try to do. So when I'm doing it, when I'm writing stuff, it's very much about, right, what happened if he had a fourth wife, or what happened if this happened to one of his sons called Gary, or whatever. How can we fit something in around that? I do very little that's in any way topical. And the only sort of topical stuff is always sort of based around names of pubs or restaurants or whatever it might be, which you have to change because they go out of business from time to time. That's the only topical stuff I have to keep up to date with, really. So hopefully that makes it. I don't get caught in a trap whereby times change and everything else, because blokes like us have just been around forever, and they're probably always going to be. So there's enough for people to recognise in there of people they've met, I think.
Yeah.
And it's funny how it kind of works, because at first especially when I started doing paid stuff, I was going outside London to get a much older audience. And you're thinking, are they going to get this? Are they going to see this character or find it too real? And the amazing thing is, from my perspective, is that the best response I get from audience is from middle-aged women who have either met or are married to or recognise. Sometimes there's blokes next to them with their heads down going, oh, fucking
when we saw you about a month ago, I was so very impressed because the audience warmed to you straight away. And I thought it was two things. It was your confidence on stage, determined to make them laugh, and it was your relatability, as you say. Everybody knows those sorts of characters, and I loved you for that. You did a 45-minute set, and I was belly laughing. I really was. So well done, you.
Thanks, Rich. Very kind. And that was a lovely show, lovely afternoon.
Yeah,
doing that. But I think that's a major part of it. If the audience think you really are this sexist ogre, some comedians, especially back in the day, weren't they?
Well, yeah, they were. Yeah.
That it's got to have that sort of that line of self-awareness and self-deprecation.
Yeah.
People get that it's a character. It's a weird one, because a lot of people for many years thought it wasn't a character, especially some of the younger comedians who couldn't quite. Especially because they'd see me in the bar afterwards. I think that's the same.
The first thing you realise, this has got to be a character.
Yeah, you'd hope so. Yeah.
What was wonderful as well about that afternoon, and I've noticed on bills as well. You shared the gig time with my very good friend Peter Purvis, aka Fred Ferenzi. Now I used to work in the civil service with him 20 odd years ago, and he was really quiet then. So to have him really quiet and you really let me at him, the contrast was amazing. So well done, you. How did you get to meet him? Just through gigging?
Yeah, Pete. Yeah, literally through years ago. Actually, I didn't see him for a few years.
Yeah,
I met a couple of times on the open mic circuit, and then I can't remember in recent years where did we meet up again. It was at a festival somewhere. It was Hastings or Brighton or somewhere.
Yeah.
And we just had a few pints together. It was Hastings actually.
Yeah.
And I think he was there with his wife, and
I
think Steve Lee was probably there. So all the sort of old gits like us were seemed to be in the same place at the same time, and just really got on. And I just love his act.
Oh, it's spot on. Yeah.
and it's just so unusual.
Yeah.
And so we do complement each other in terms of that, especially when we do double bills.
We
were in Dublin together a few weeks ago, and we did 6 shows at the Crack down there, which is fantastic. And we'd usually come one before we'd go on one or in either order, and again it's that sort of that contrast, which you need, don't you? I mean, that's the thing.
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
You need to get the light and the shade. But, it's great working with Pete, or Fred, I should say.
Following on from the what you like talking about on stage, tell me about your writing process for a routine or a show, if you have one. You might not have one.
No, I suppose it's a process. Because I've been doing it 10 years.
Yeah.
So the material I've built up over 10 years, and I adapt or I throw away or whatever. And I probably write about 5 or 10 minutes a year. It's very, very slow, because I'm very lazy. And to be fair, I'm busy. But comedy as well. But it used to be very much when I started. I spent a lot of my life on the M25.
Right.
Going to and from work. So a lot of it would be talking to myself in the car. And then whatever I remembered of it, trying to write it down as soon as I got out of the car and I got to work or got home or whatever. And then just trying to just piece it together bit by bit. And the great thing is about doing the open mic circuit and being as profoundly unsuccessful as I've been for 10 years is that it's so incremental in terms of the way that you build up the set to get to the point where I do 45 minutes or an hour or something.
Yeah.
You've got so much stuff that's actually been I've done so many times, and then you piece it together the way that you piece it together and build the narrative through it. It's not rushed, shall we say? it's very laboured, but that's cool. I'm happy with that. I don't lie awake at night thinking I've got to think of a joke or on my way. The times on the way to a gig, you think, I thought something funny, and I quickly learned that you then use it, and it's just not. Most of the time, if you think something on the way to the gig and you haven't properly thought it through, it's usually shit. So I don't tend to do. I don't tend to improvise. Although I will on the night. If something happens during the show, clearly that I'll do it within character. But it's a laboured process, Rich. It really is. But I say a process, like you say, it's probably not a process. I just think of something and see if I can fit that in. What's that?
But what you're saying in a funny sort of way again is because you've been out on the road a long time and you're building up the material again. That's experience. It's experience of facing the different audiences, moving around.
Yeah, and you pick up things like, it's like I was in one line I use, which is to describe somebody bursting out of their clothes as like a fat family in a Fiat 500. It seems like, and that came from being in a Tesco's car park like a year or two ago, just seeing a fairly overweight couple of people trying to squeeze into a Fiat 500. It's not funny, and it shouldn't be funny. I'm not mocking people with their weight, but it's just that image. Of thinking it just
again people can conjure that up in their minds. It's fascinating to watch. I think you're a great comedian. I've always thought that. What do you think makes a good comedian? It's a tough old question.
Yeah, when I was thinking about this earlier, it's jokes, isn't it? It's just first of all, if you haven't got good jokes, you're not going to be a great comedian.
Yeah.
You've got to have good material. And then after that, I think it is that relaxation and confidence and not being fazed by what's in front of you and not being too worried. We all have terrible gigs. As you go on, less and less, but there's one just around the corner. You always know there is, and so it's just being more relaxed. I think it's probably easier with age, and also this isn't my primary source of income,
right?
So I don't have that pressure that a lot of professional comedians have. So I think it's that relaxation, but it's a learning curve all the way through. And it sounds really bland and whatever, but you just never stop learning, do you? And that as the thing is of it, it's just you build up a certain intuition and a certain understanding of an audience. Along.
what I found as well, even although you are a character on stage, another massive plus that you've got is you're very endearing. You were very endearing when you were on the stage. You had the microphone, and you must have thought to yourself, "I'm not leaving this stage till everybody in this room is laughing," and that's
Yeah.
a magic quality to have.
Oh, thank you. I do try. It doesn't always work. Yeah. But I think, I mean, the thing is with it, isn't it? I don't like, I mean, I've seen lots of brilliant confrontational comedians, etc. But it's not something I could do. It's because it wouldn't come in any way natural to me. I'd much rather sort of develop and bring an audience in
Yeah,
rather than try and confront them. And as an MC as well, when I MC, I'm never horrible to people. It just doesn't wash well with me. So, do you know what? I think a lot of it as well. I mean, I've worked for 40 years now, but also I've spent 40 years in pubs, and it's been used to being around large pub tables with groups of people, whereby you want to get everybody a chance to speak and make sure that you're listening, and it be a communal thing, and that's. I mean,
that's
I think
really interesting. Yeah.
most of the people especially the people I like and have met, become friends with, are very much like that on the circuit in terms of, backstage. Nobody's holding. I mean, sometimes you get people who just getting brilliant stories and you're just listening to them, but I think it's a wonderful environment a lot of the time in terms of the way that people try to actually make you feel welcome, especially for me, because I'm so new really to the professional circuit that I sometimes go in with people. I think, my God, this guy's been on telly for the last 5 years, or whatever. I'm thinking, what am I doing here, kind of thing. And there is that imposter syndrome until you get on stage.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm all right. I'm good at this. But I think it's a very welcoming community by and large.
Very much so.
That's what I've had. With a few idiots, but there's more idiots in other walks of life I've found than there are in comedy as a percentage.
That's very true. Do you prefer comparing to performing a solo routine?
No, I much prefer performing a solo routine and doing my spot. I run my own club, as you may know, in Chelmsford, and so I compare there really just to save money, to be honest.
Right.
I'd rather have somebody else do it if I thought, I'm going to pay another 150 quid to do that. No, I like comparing. It's fun, but I think it's different as well. It depends on where you're comparing. Because if you compare your own regular plays, then I know a lot of the people in the audience, or I've grown to know them or whatever. So it's more of a sort of familiar kind of face kind of thing in terms, and also local references, and it's the same same venue every month. That's a different type of comparing to the one that the other kind of compare I probably prefer, because you actually chuck bits of your set in. If you're going somewhere you're not going back to, you can do a bit of set and do a bit of crowd work and whatever. But I'm nowhere near as accomplished as an MC as I hope I've become as a comedian. It's such an art, and I don't have it to that degree in terms. I'm not quick enough, in terms of actually picking up on things and what you can potentially do. You see the best MCs, when they're funnier than the acts half the time, aren't they? In terms of the crowd work that they do, and that's masterful. When you see that happening, it's a wonderful thing to see. And I'm not there, so I'd much prefer just to be doing me sex. It's you're on and you're off, aren't you? And that's it.
I go to Always Be Comedy quite a bit, and watching James Gill do his thing as the compere, he's very, very good at getting the audience going, ready for the acts. So I will, for example, I will sit on a front row, which I never used to do. It gave me a lot of confidence sitting on the front row. And there was one week, very early on when I went there, he played a music game, and I thought, I know that song, and I started singing the song, and this turned into a regular thing where I stood up and, thank God he was there, tried to sing this song and get the whole crowd going. And of course the joke was I can't sing a note. But he knew that, and it's great, and good MCs, I think, can see that in audiences and get them ready for the acts. You see what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, I started off doing a lot with Angel comedy.
Oh yeah.
Don't worry. So
Yeah.
I've seen Barry Fern's MC so many times,
Yeah.
and every time he's just
Oh, Barry Fern's superb. Yeah.
absolute master at it, and is so original in some of the ways that he uses the audience as a tool almost, but in a friendly way. But he plays with them throughout the course of the show.
Yeah.
And someone like Rich Wilson, brilliant MC as well. You watch that, you think that's
just one of the nicest, funniest people going. Rich.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely
hilarious. I can't, having seen you live, I can't ever imagine you having a bad gig. What has been your best and worst gig to date?
Well, it's funny. I was thinking about that. So a terrible memory, but so best gigs. I think if I had to pick one out, and I was thinking back on this, it would probably be the first pro show I did at the Bill Murray, actually, which was with Sindhu V was on just before me.
Brilliant.
And yeah, I kind of knew I'd been on a couple of things with Sindhu sort of years earlier when she was.
She's lovely. Yeah,
she's absolutely lovely. Yeah, and by this time she was famous. She was all over the radio, and she was on QI, whatever, and things like that. And of course she went on first, and it just such eloquence and just beautiful, charismatic stories, really cleverness. And I'm stood there, and the audience are absolutely lapping out, and thinking, I'm going to go on after this just useless, fat, middle-aged Essex geezer.
Stop putting yourself down.
No. That is what I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. I was joking.
Well, I think about it, but it's so close to real life. But after this star of the current day that has been on, and I'm saying, this is my first pro gig. What are they going to make of me? And it was such a good contrast. They absolutely lapped it up, and he went down brilliantly.
Brilliant.
And from there on, I was like, actually, I have got something here. That was one of those things. It's one of those moments you think, actually, I can do more with this. I do have something. And so after, I've had loads. Recently, just some wonderful gigs. I had a great one at Bearcat a couple of months ago. I had one up on Catford. I did a couple. I've done a couple for Spiky Mike up north for Funhouse, and you're always worried about what the Northerners will get, especially being from Essex. It just went down, because you've got to be honest. Most of the country's got a snobbery and a distaste for people from Essex. So it's going well. So loads, but I do forget them. Because it's that thing. So you once you had a great night, you drive home. It's fantastic. You think, it was a great time. But the next morning, something else happens. You're walking the dog, or you're instantly forgotten stuff. You're on your next one, aren't you? But the bad ones stay with you. The really bad ones stay with you. So the worst one, and I had to think for this one because there have been so many over the years. But the worst one is recent. It was only 2 years ago. It was at Edinburgh,
right?
And it was called the Pigeon Cabaret,
right?
And I think it was called the Rowan Tree on Cowgate.
Massive
venue.
And I know the place. I've never heard of the show.
Well, it's because it's not a comedy show, Rich. That's why. But I managed to get myself booked onto it. It's a circus skills trapeze acts show, which. They must have posted something on one of the forums saying they're looking for acts of all types, and I messaged them and sent them a
hello.
He came back and said, I really like your stuff, come and do it. And I had no idea what I was going into. There's probably 150, 200 people in it. Really big venue, for Edinburgh. And I went to the sort of green room area, which was upstairs. And there were the people hanging from the beams and stuff, breathing fire and stuff, and there was me. And I was like, do a bit of paper, what I'm doing. But and added to that was my nephew, who was on holiday with his mates touring around Scotland, had come to see me. He'd never seen me do comedy before. So this was probably about the 15th gig I'd done in about 3 days doing comp shows, and they'd all gone really well. I thought, I've got it made with this. And I went our second on, and the act before, he had a mic, but he was doing something with, I don't know, he was doing some kind of very visual, wiring type deal. And his mic was really good, but the MC's mic was rubbish. I could tell that. I said, "Can I use his mic?" And he said, "No, he's taking it with." There's 200 people expecting, trapeze artists, and I come on trying to tell my sort of downbeat stories of Essex life. And to be fair, afterwards, so few people at the bar, so we just couldn't hear you. Hardly anybody could hear me, but it was like stony face, and like the first few rows could kind of hear a bit of it. But I just did. I'm doing this full fucking.
Oh mate.
But I came up. It was hilarious. I went to see Masai Graham. And,
I know him well.
Steve Lee and Kirsty and people afterwards. Do another show, and they were just crying with laugh. I came and I said, like I say, my nephew was there. He was very generous, but it was honest. It was utterly appalling. I don't think I got a laugh. I mean, the people smiling. I might have got the odd laugh, but with 200 people, it was terrified.
You've got to be, I presume, prepared for anything. And again, as we've said many times, experience. I think you've got to experience the bad gigs to become a better comedian.
I think you have, but I think you've also got to be a little bit more circumspect in thinking you can play anywhere.
Yeah.
I was asked to do something outdoors a few years ago here in Chelmsford where I live. It was like a Christmas thing, turning the lights on and doing some jokes. And I just said, look, my material is just not suitable for families. So I think
I'll switch the lights on, but that's it.
I don't mind switching them on. But who am I? No, I'm not a celebrity. It's just like somebody's been on telly. But yeah, it's also picking what you can't do. You knowing where it's not going to work. I mean, most comedy clubs are fine. There's no reason to think it can't happen. But there are some weird ones. I did want to. This was not terrible, but very weird. It was the National Sheepdog Trials in Suffolk, and it was this huge. It was this massive tent. They were supposed to be full of shepherds. None of them turned up. It was pissing down with rain all day, and they just all buggered off to the pub or into a little village or whatever. So it's supposed to be fun for all these shepherds, are all staying in caravans around the place. And it was a huge tent, and it was on Ali Ward was on a few others. I know a few sort of East Anglian comedians, and it was bizarre because there was just there was a couple of families in there. We said, well, look. It really isn't suitable. I said, we don't care. All right, we're doing it then. It must have been 20 people in a tent that would hold 500. It was pouring down with rain, full of barring sheep outside and stuff. It's like we're in the middle of a big stately home. Anyway, it's very strange.
That's genius.
But they're the ones you remember, aren't they?
Yeah.
So the ones you remember. But yeah, it was fun. That one actually, even though it was awful. But yeah.
I always remember one of the first comedians I ever saw was Les Dawson. I saw him twice. I saw him on holiday with the family, and he was amazing in the 70s. And I saw him just before he sadly passed on. He was in the play Run for Your Wife at Newcastle. Not very good Ray Cooney farce, but he was starring. And I went with my girlfriend, and there was us two, and there was a woman with a baby next to us, and we were the only four in. And he rolled on, and he was brilliant. He walked out on his own first, and he went, right, stop the show. I'm going to do 10 minutes stand-up comedy. And he was brilliant.
Wow.
Just telling jokes and everything. And the baby next to me was crying right the way through it. And he jumped down off the stage. He went up to the baby and he put his hands down below his mouth. And he went, I don't want that. I want smiles. And the baby stopped crying. It was like, this is unbelievable.
Magic and
that was a magical moment. But clearly he must have thought, because of the audience he had in, we weren't going to have a very good show. But it's an example of him turning it around. Another example was I was at the Edinburgh Fringe once with a friend of mine who was a reviewer, and there was about 4 of us in, 3 of us in, not many in.
Yeah.
And the comedian bounded on, who will remain nameless, and went, hello everybody! Oh, there's only 3 people in the crowd. Thank you so much for coming along. I'm not going to do the show. I'll buy you all a beer. Thank you very much for coming along. Have a good time. And the bloke in the front row had his arms folded. He went, no, I've paid me £6. I want the hour.
Right.
And he had to do it.
Yeah.
The show would go on.
I did it in front of 2 people at the weekend on Friday night in Brighton.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's an odd experience. Like I said, they turn up especially to see it.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Do you want? I'll do it. It's not a problem." Well, there's 2, and there was a guy who's doing the door. But the odd thing about doing it is it puts the pressure on them to laugh.
Yeah.
I was trying to look away at times, sort of like try and almost go. So you don't have to laugh all that through because nobody else does. They're being very, very kind.
It's not about me, it's about the character.
That's the matter.
Unbelievable. That's that. Well, I mean, you deserve an audience, my friend. My God, two people. That must have been difficult, but obviously you laughed it off.
It doesn't matter. I did 8 shows in 2 days, 6 comps and 2 the next one of mine was about 20, and so that was good.
That's better.
And most of the comp shows sell out, don't they? They're very
yeah,
by and large. So it was a great experience. I mean, I'll always do them, but I think a lot of people have suffered at Brighton this year with low numbers.
Yeah. It's
not
a
just
shame.
me. But it was a 10:45
come back.
Yeah, 10:45 evening show on a really hot Friday night as well. Wasn't the best time, but that is what it is, mate.
It is what it is. You mentioned at the top about nerves. Do you get any nerves before you go on stage, and if so, how do you cope with them?
I do. I still do. It depends on the size. I mean, it really does depend on the size of the gig, obviously, but and who you're performing with a lot of time, because you're quite anxious to be seen to be good. But when I was in London, I'd have a couple of pints, but I drive to most gigs now, so I might have a swift one, but it's usually I stand outside and have a smoke.
Yeah.
And rewrite my stuff in bullet points, just look over, even though I know it inside out. Do it, and look at it again. And then sometimes if I am really nervous, I just do a few breathing exercises before I go on.
Yeah.
And then just calm yourself down a bit. But I mean, most of the time I'm not massively nervous, but occasionally, I mean, I've always got a little bit of nerves whenever, whoever it is.
I think you have to, don't you? You have to have some degree of nerves, otherwise it wouldn't work.
I think so. I mean, I'm sure there must be comedians who don't and are still brilliant.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just that I think it's the adrenaline of doing it anyway, isn't it? But if you're not nervous, and is the adrenaline the same? I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, would you say that as soon as you get your first laugh, any nerves that you had would go? Yeah. To be honest with you, as soon as I get on stage, I think it's pretty much gone. Yeah.
It's not even the first laugh. It's
a lot of people say walking across the stage and picking the microphone up, it goes, because you know it and you're away.
You're in the zone. What I think you have to be careful of is that I mean, sometimes it can be rare, but sometimes you find yourself that you're not in the moment anymore. You're just reciting things, and that's where you've lost the concentration, lost your focus. And that's what, okay, I got. And when that happens, you almost got to stop yourself and start again. Yeah, because you can feel that sometimes, especially if things are a bit flat, you can feel yourself, and then you're not performing. You just really something out. Yeah. And that's always quite odd. It's an odd feeling. It's a kind of spacey kind of feeling. Actually, you're almost outside yourself, watching yourself a little bit, just for a split second again. But that sounds very pretentious, doesn't it? But it's
interesting though, because
it's an odd one.
It's the famous Bill Hicks line where he says something like, he walks on and he goes, "Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome again. Here we go again with this shit." Because they have to do it night in, night out,
Yeah. Oh, well, exactly, and that's. I mean, the people that do they must suffer from that to some degree. Well, the same with actors, isn't it? A lot of it's just they can't be totally in the character all the time if they're doing the same bloody thing 8 times a week.
How do you remember all your routines? Do you have a way of remembering them? Do you write things down?
It's very bullets. It's sort of like just a title or an opening line or whatever, and then there's perhaps 2 or 3 minutes, 4 minutes worth of stuff. that leads from it. But it's a through narrative that I have really in terms of how I try to work it. So I've got a sort of system I can chuck it around, but just to make sure that the narrative still makes sense, which I quite often do. Like the one I did on Saturday, I lost about 5 or 6 minutes because I jumped, and I realised about 10 minutes before the end that I should really go back. Well, I couldn't go back because I thought, no, it's not going to make any sense. And I'm still going to do about 45 minutes anyway. So it was a hot afternoon as well. You thought, no, you'll just be punching.
Yeah.
But I do jump stuff at times, but usually I'm there, you know. And I think sometimes you jump stuff when you do have some kind of interaction or something happens slightly different, and then for whatever reason you go off on a different angle to a different piece of material. But yeah, because it's a narrative and it's not like if you're telling loads and loads of jokes that aren't connected, it doesn't really matter, does it? But because I have sort of like a start, beginning, middle, and an end sort of way in terms of I'm actually pitching this character, it does have a sort of like through line to it that kind of where you are with it in terms of how you're actually trying to structure the thing. But that's kind of how I do it. It's built over the years, Rich. I mean, because you start with 5 minutes and you work to 10 minutes and you work to 15 minutes, and it grows. Like I say, with my completely slow progress, it's. In another 10 years' time, I'll have it off pat.
Yeah. One of the most creative things I've ever done, apart from this blog and podcast, is I wrote a play.
Oh, wow.
It's called The Applicant, and it's basically about me coming down from Carlisle to London. I have a successful girlfriend in London, and I've never had an interview. So I played the main role, and my mate, who's very good at mimicry, played all the different interviews. I have a series of interviews, and that's the play. So it was monologue, interview, and I'm in the waiting room, really nervous, and start talking to the audience, and that's how it starts. So we'd rehearsed this for 10 weeks, and I wrote the bloody thing, and we did 3 nights, and we got a lot of money for comic relief. The first night I ran out and dried. I had about 6 pages of monologue, I just panicked. I'm like, I want to go home. I've had enough. What I did do was get his name in, which was it was called Norman Oliver Hope. So all the letters were Dear N.O. Hope when he was, and I thought that was great. But day 2 and day 3, I never lost my footing again. But I've never experienced anything like that where I was so convinced I'd be all right, and then I wasn't. And I think it's slightly different acting to comedy, because with comedy at least you've got the audience that you can play off. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, no, I think it's the thing is with acting, it's you've got nowhere to go, have you? This is the thing. And also depending on where you are in the play, if you don't say your lines, the rest of the play is going to make no bloody sense.
Believe me.
So no, I think comedy. I mean, it's such a different art, isn't it? In terms of what it is. But yeah, I mean, I did do some acting when I was younger, and I found it really difficult. It
is a different beast. Yeah. Let's move on. I am very, very lucky every year to be able to go to the Edinburgh Fringe. I've been going since 2005, and that's my weekly holiday. This last year in particular, I've branched out and gone to a lot more festivals and fringes and whatnot.
Sure.
I love going all over Britain. And I go regularly to Hastings. I've been to Brighton. I went to Leicester. Leicester was wonderful. Tell me about your first experience of a fringe or a festival or the Edinburgh Fringe. What was it like? What did you feel like?
Yeah, the first fringe I ever did was Hastings. Actually, it was the first ever Hastings fringe, which was 7 years ago, something like that. Right. And it was lovely. It was really good. Even
it is a good one. I'm looking.
Yeah, they weren't big audiences, but it was still sort of that. They went well. The shows that I did.
It's well organised, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah, Chris and Jake are great. And it's always a good after party there as well. So do enjoy it. It's a lovely pubs in Hastings. And then so from that I went to. I've only ever done comp spots at Edinburgh. I go every year, and I go for 3 or 4 nights and just do loads of comp spots because I can't really afford the time off in terms of work and family and everything in terms of taking the whole of August off. So and also, I think I'd be up for it, to be honest with you. I don't. Doesn't really appeal to
25 nights.
No, it's like I'd miss the cricket, and I might 1 year I'd love to do it, I suppose. But so the first time I went up, it was Steve Lee said, yeah, just go and just I know some people give me spots and stuff. I met a bit like Massai and there's some other people up there I knew, and they gave me spots, and I was probably doing like 3 or 4, the first year I went up, but now I go up and I do like 6, 7, 8 a day, just running around from one place to the next, and I absolutely adore it.
It's so good, isn't it? There's something very special when you step off the train at Waverley and the atmosphere just hits you. It's an incredible thing. I will love it for as long as I can go. I'll go as long as I can.
No, and I think it must be probably more so for you than it is for me, but I always have this thing: who's the first person I'm going to bump into? Well, I get off I fly. I get off the bus. I get the bus to the airport. How long is it going to take? It's usually within 2 minutes. Of getting off on Princess Street and walking somewhere. I've bumped into somebody I know. It's never more than 5 minutes. There'll be somebody you bump into because there's so many hundreds of people you know up there running around from place to place.
What is amazing, particularly last year, what normally happens is whenever I go and see a comedy bill, I love to chat afterwards and get a photo and whatever. But normally, comedians are very busy people, and it's like, oh, you were really good, blah blah blah. Any chance for photo, done and off. Right? When I was at Edinburgh last year, big comedians were coming up to me going, "Oh my God, it's Richard Gill!" And that's lovely.
It must be.
And I'm thinking, well, all I've got's my laugh, but I should ensure the laugh. But there's a lot of knowledge and the 50.
But that's great. It's really respectful as well, isn't it? That's actually
it's lovely. Yeah,
that's wonderful. Yeah. Are you up there this year?
I'm going the Wednesday, the 23rd of August. This won't be out till 2024. This is 2023.
All right, so you would have been,
23rd, 24th, 25, 26, 27, 20. I'm going up 6 nights.
Well,
normally it's a week, but work. I have to work, unfortunately, but I'm still doing a lot of shows, so I'm looking forward to it very much. But I've got Hastings. I'm going the entire thing.
I'm at Hastings for a couple of nights.
I'll see you there, my friend, no doubt. To date, what has been your comedy highlight? Have you got one?
I don't know that I have. It's funny. Well, you mentioned something. I'd actually written it down earlier. I did a show recently at downstairs at the King's Head, and it was I've been trying to get. This ain't coming out for a while, so it's all right. But I finally got a pro spot there, and it's taken me a long time to get one. But I've been bashing on the Thursday night door for a long time, and it went really well. And I came off, and the MC, I won't mention his name because he might retract it, but a very well respected comedian said, you really remind me of Les Dawson. And I was like, and then you mentioned Les Dawson because he's a hero of mine. And I was thinking, well, that's kind of what I've kind of been after, in a sense, in terms of the use of language and the stories that I tell, which is the darkness.
That's brilliant.
Even though, don't get me wrong, I'm not in any way saying I'm in anywhere near that league. But to have, as a compliment, from a very well respected comedian, I'll have that one. Yeah, that was great. But no, in terms of highlights, it's so incremental how way this has progressed for me that there are loads of little comedy highlights in terms of I've done this gig, I've played there, I've done that, whatever. But this doesn't sound trite, but the journey's really has been made up of just meeting people and loads of people, making loads of friends as you go along. And so a lot of the highlights really have been the after show or meeting up before or a journey or whatever. It's the stuff around it, which is, as to me is much of the experience. The being on stage obviously is the moment that you just you're just there, you totally just love it. But the bits around it in terms of they're just ridiculous things that have happened as part of being at comedy shows.
Yeah.
Not just with comedians, but with my mates who come and other people you meet in the audience or whatever. And you all end up somewhere and something goes off.
It's brilliant.
It's as much a social side of things as the comedy.
Very much really so, yeah.
It's been fantastic.
You mentioned downstairs at the King's Head. I went. I used to go there all the time when I first came down to London.
Right.
It's an amazing room and an amazing building.
Love it, yeah.
And I know Peter Graham very well, and everybody who's down there. But I hadn't been for a while, and I went to the 40th anniversary show.
Oh, right, yeah, it's recent, wasn't it?
Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And they brought back Hugh Thomas, the resident compere. And he walked up and he went, "Hello, Richard, remember me?" And he remembered me sitting there. And I was like, bloody hell, you know. And I can remember seeing Harry Hill there for the first time and Jeff Green there for the first time. And the show itself, the 40th anniversary show, the bill was unbelievable. It was Arthur Smith, it was Nick Helm, it was Phil Nichol. Top of the bill was Al Murray. And he walked out, and he's famous for his beers, throwing his beers to the front of the crowd. He literally looked at me and went, "Hello," right up me. I got to. And then he went, "It's great to see you, Rich." Afterwards, you know, it was so lovely. And I've just had Peter Graham on the podcast.
God, I listened to that.
It's amazing.
Fella,
and I went again on the following Saturday. And I saw the Joe Bore's film, The Oldest Comedy Club in Britain.
Oh, yeah.
Which is
I'd like to see that. Yeah.
And then I went to the show in the evening as well. And it's just wonderful to go. It's one of the great venues in London. Yeah. It really is. It's up there with the Comedy Store, I think.
Yeah, it's got such a vibe to it, hasn't it? It's old school film. Because I went to comedy in the 80s and stuff. And in the 90s. And there seemed to be more places like that then. I don't know.
Very much so.
Remembering. But
Harry Hill, when he was there, brushed past me, jumped up onto the stage, and said, "I'm very sorry, I'm late, ladies and gentlemen. I had to have a testicle brought down." And there was a pause and a laugh, and then he said, "From Derby." And to this day, it's the greatest opening line ever. And when I finally met him 25 years later, he went, "Rich, I still tell that in the act."
Why not?
Best.
People haven't heard it,
Just brilliant. How have you found online gigs as opposed to live gigs? Have you done many of them, or none?
Didn't try to do anything. I just thought that's not for me.
No.
I mean, partially it was when lockdown was happening.
Yeah.
Almost my entire family came back to the house to live and work, or be at school still and stuff. So my online capacity, it was very flaky. So I think I'd have been cutting in and out a lot of the time anyway, because so many people were using it. You know what it's like anyway with a built-up area. People are using the same broadband, aren't they? Same bandwidth. Yeah. But also, I've got to be honest with you, I just didn't appeal. I thought I got a day job. I didn't need to do it for the money.
Yeah.
I thought I'll just wait and see what happens, and eventually, hopefully, get back on stage again.
Yeah, it's I totally agree with you. When the online gigs were done well, they were okay. But they were much better than nothing. But you cannot beat the live experience because you're in the moment. Anything can happen. That's
yeah.
And when everything started opening up again, it was wonderful. It was so good to have it back, and it was missed and sadly decimated. Really awful. It was horrible. That's why the blog exists, to support everybody, you know. And
well, it was obviously it was a terrible, tragic time for so many people. Yeah. So I think that was the thing as well. It was sort of like not that people shouldn't have done it, but I don't think I was in the right frame of mind necessarily to do it as well. Just sort of like, there's too many other things to worry about.
Yeah. Who are your favourite comedians, past and present?
Yeah, well, I mentioned Les Dawson.
Yeah.
So I love Les Dawson. Used to go and see. I mean, this is the thing. I seaside towns and pier shows and stuff like that, and you see all sorts of the comedians of the day, a lot of which I can't remember. You know, remember Mike and Bernie Winters and people like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Never saw Morecambe and Wise, sadly.
Ditto. I wish I had, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. They were the reason why I do this. They were the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They of course they're just untouchable. But as a kid, you know, it was things like Lauren Hardy and Abbott and Costello and stuff like that. I loved all that kind of stuff. But then I was about 16, 17. I was lucky enough. The estate that I lived in when I grew up on, my best mate lived next door. His mum and dad were quite arty. We weren't arty at all. We barely had a book in the house. But yeah, we always had to telly on and watch the comedy. But they, I can't remember if it was his 16th or 17th. I think it was probably his 16th. They took us up for a birthday thing. They got they got tickets. We went there anyway because his dad worked in London. We went to the comic strip.
Wow.
So what was it, 81, 82, whatever that was.
Wow.
And yeah, we were 16, sat there. And how we got in, God only knows. Got us in. We were in. And what I really remember from that, I don't remember exactly who was on. Got to be honest, but I do remember the Dangerous Brothers, wasn't it? It was Rick Mail and Adrian Edmonds.
Yeah.
We were right near the front. It was like I've never seen anything like this before in my life. It was just like we were getting tears. 16. It was like this is different to anything we've ever seen. And so yeah, absolutely in love with Rick Mail and Adrian Edmonds from there.
That's fantastic.
Never stopped really. I've always thought they were both incredible. But from that as well, in terms of stand up now. Who I always try and go and see, but I don't watch that much comedy sort of live because I'm always doing stuff and everything. But I always try and go and see Alexi Sale if I can, and go to his previews at the Museum of Comedy or wherever, because it's always new and it's always just brilliant. I mean, it's just so funny and so clever, and his politics are spot on as far as I'm concerned. So absolutely, adore Alexi Sale, but also. As a family, what we're taking the kids, in recent years, they don't go anywhere with us anymore. But always loved, for many years, John Shuttleworth.
Oh, super! What a choice! Yeah.
What as a live act, and listening to, listening to his radio, but also listen to his music. I love his music. But it's almost a love. Go and see John Shuttleworth. It's just like a love. It's just like,
he's so good.
And he can do his. When he says it now, so. I've got to put in a few new songs. He's like a rock act, really.
He's so good.
I'm going to do my favourites, but I'll go.
I haven't seen him for a while, but his gigs are memorable. They are so funny. And his character is brilliant. And of course, Jilted John in the 70s.
Well, yeah.
As I say, my first ever gig was Les Dawson. A year later, we saw Tommy Cooper. That was incredible. The curtains opened. There was nothing on stage but a bed, and he's lying on it. And one woman is crying in the audience, and it trickles round. He hasn't done anything. He pops his head up and he goes, "What? Somebody come on!" Just and then started writing everything down. Morecambe and Wise were the ones that got away. My first comedy store in London would have been. John Maloney emceeing, Richard Morton, Phil Jupitus, Linda Smith, God bless her. She was fantastic. And top of the bill was Charles Fleischer, went on to voice Roger Rabbit, so he was never seen again. He was a visual American.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I gig with Richard Morton recently. He's absolutely superb still.
Morton's brilliant. He's been on here. He's been brilliant. He's brilliant.
I'll tell you also from that era.
Yeah.
Who I've been lucky enough to perform with. Well, I actually put him on here in Chelmsford. I've always just if I saw he was on, I'd try and go and see him. Simon Munnery.
Oh, he's brilliant. He's so good.
The League Against William and Alan Parker.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff, because he's always totally out there and just has me crying.
Yeah. I saw Rick Mail in Carlisle on tour. Right. He was incredible. Jumped on, his trousers exploded, and he threw a member of the audience out, and that was the first 2 minutes. Just brilliant. I mean, I've seen, who have I not seen? French and Saunders. I saw Frank Skinner, Steve Coogan. Just watching them all over the years has just been incredible. One of my favourites now is Josh Widdicombe. I just think he's fantastic. We go sometimes to the recording of The Last Leg, and I have a T-shirt that says "Richard Says Laugh" on it. And I wear it with some of the comedians sometimes. And we went to this recording, and Adam Hills walked out, and he goes, "Hello, Richard Says Laugh." And Josh Widdicombe, God bless him, went, "Oh my God, that's Richard Gill. He's the greatest audience member in Britain with the loudest laugh." And I just like, and everyone turned around and I went, "Ha!" right up, and it was so good. So it's as you say, it's like magic moments. It's magical what you all do to entertain us. So thank you and well done.
Oh, no, absolute pleasure. I'll carry on as long as I possibly can, mate.
What's not to love? Just following on from that, like me, do you go to a lot of comedy gigs as a member of the audience?
Not a lot. Well, I mean, I do. I do. I mean, in a sense, I'll always go and try and see my mate, see if I'm available. So I'll go and see Steve or Pit Fed or a variety of other people. I won't list a load of bunch of people, but if there's things I can get to, but they're usually in London, so I do quite a lot myself. So not a huge amount. Like I say, I'll go and see particular people. If I see so much, I put shows on here as well. That I don't have that much time, so not a lot. I don't watch much on telly either, but I'd much rather go see live stuff. If I possibly can.
If you're on a bill of acts, would you stay and watch them all?
Yeah, if I can, I always do. The thing is when you're driving, and this is the thing now, which all comedians tell you, is if you're more than an hour and a half away from home, and you're middle. I'm usually out middle. I'm not headlining, so I'm opening or middle. It's getting home before they shut the roads in front of you. Because so there's an element of that where I don't always do it, but if I think, oh fuck it, I'll do it anyway. Or if it looks like there's time and I'm not going to end up, getting home at 2 a.m. and have to get up at 6:30 for work stuff, I'll stay and watch. So yeah, I'll always stay and watch. But it's increasingly, I suppose, not difficult, but what you've got with certain places as well is that it's they're so rammed a lot. I mean, you can't actually get a space. Wherever, I don't know if you found it. Since the last year or two, everywhere seems very full compared to what it was. Which is great. But yeah, I'll always stay unless it's somebody I've seen a lot recently or whatever. But you
can. I've so much enjoyed chatting to you. I really have. You've been a great guest. Is there anything else you would like to say before we go? Where can people find you on social media?
Oh, right, yeah.
You got any podcasts, anything like that?
So there's very little. So I've got a really poor website. It's about to be rebuilt. So it's www.paulmerryck.com.
Yeah.
MERRYCK. And I'm on Instagram at Paul Merryck, MERRYCK, and I'm on Facebook. But what I do have is I will promote if there's anybody who's watching this from the Essex area or wants to come out to Essex see some comedy. So I run it's called A Comedy Club. It's called A Comedy Club because it's a canteen restaurant, and they insisted it was called A Comedy Club. But it's got kind of ring to it, I suppose. And we're on first Thursdays of every month, February through to July, and then September through to December. Obviously, it's going to be broadcast next year. I was about to tell you who's on, but it doesn't make much point because it'll have been gone by the time they come on.
I may well journey to see you there.
Well, come along, mate. That'd be lovely.
That would be, because
got some great previews coming up.
I love to experience a new comedy club, and if we've got as good a comedian on comparing it as you, then
that's what I'm saying.
It's going to be wonderful.
You'd be absolutely welcome. Just let me know, and I'll stick you on a guest list and everything.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much for being a great guest.
Oh, thank you for having me on. It's been lovely talking to you, Rich.
All the best to you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah, take care. Perhaps have a pint in Hastings, yeah?
Yes, definitely. Thanks a lot, my friend. All the best.
Cheers, Rich. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.